Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast, a podcast for estate professionals who earn more, work less, and make a huge difference in their communities. If you get value out of this free content, be sure to check out probatemastery.com, where you can get live classes, access to weekly coaching, and valuable courses. To learn more, visit probatemastery.com. Now let's jump into this week's content.
Hey, welcome to our Tuesday morning Probate Mastery real estate coaching call. I'm Bill Gross, and we run this every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and all times in between and on either side. This is the official coaching program affiliated with Probate Mastery. Probatemastery.com is the place to get it. If you want to join us, you can click on free weekly coaching call, and it'll take you to a short little sign-up page. Name, email, phone number, and you get reminders. We go live. We'll come on the Zoom and participate. Love to have you do that. And then you can continue the conversation on the Facebook community as well. We have estate planning, estate professional mastermind, 7,600 members. Additionally, on the website Probate Mastery, you have some free content that you should check out if you're new to this. If you're looking to move forward, you might consider getting yourself certified in Probate Mastery. And so there's a detail as far as that. And then if you are paying attention today, you'll see in the chat box a chance to talk to our course administrator, Lou. If he's in the call, he'll say hi at some point and offer you an opportunity to meet with me if we want to talk about the program further. Separately, I host probateweekly.com. You can go to probateweekly.com, sign up with email, and you get reminders for that. And then if you want to watch it on audio formats or see the past episodes, you can scroll down and do that as well. Then I have a Facebook group myself, Probate Weekly. I'm just short of 4,000 members. Love to have you be the 4,000th. If you click on that, it says 4,000, take a picture, send it to me. I'll send you a Probate Weekly coffee mug as a thank you for helping me get over the hump there. I've been at 3,900 for quite a while. So, and so what's the purpose of the phone call? New camera, new computer, no camera, Connie. Oh, well, Connie will have to get by without seeing you. No eye candy for all the guys. The purpose of this call is to help us work together, report your victories, your losses, challenges, and we can come together to solve those problems and then coordinate. And the purpose of the Facebook groups are we can coordinate our social media and get more views. And so as we're all trying to build our program, it gives us a chance to do that. Natasha Sanders, got your email. Thank you. Nice to see you again. Welcome. And no, not today. Not one today. Okay, I'm not sure what that means, but friend of the program, thanks for joining us. I guess I won't say your name since your name isn't on there. And Mark Pedrosa, camera off. Okay, so who has a victory or a loss or something, a problem you want to work on together, or a challenge or a question I can help you guys with today? Anybody?
Bill, I thought I'd jump on today to see if maybe you or anyone else on the call could brainstorm for a second with me. So is that cool?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Steve Hughes, friend of the program. Glad to have you in. What's going on?
Hey, so, one of the referral partners I have has really turned out to be a pretty good one. It's actually a mortuary. And it's,
Nice.
funeral planner. He sells plans and such. So he's almost like a agent for the funeral home, but he'll also do funerals and burials. He even do cremations, that sort of thing. Really get along with the guy. And he actually connected me to an attorney partner when there was someone who was buried in testate. And that really opened the door for me with a couple of other attorneys. So we get along well. So I've sent him business. We have a good relationship. But as I was going through a lot of my numbers for the past few months, I've just noticed, even though I do like the senior transition stuff and the probate, there's just better deals on the probate side almost always. They're a little bit easier, but I'll tell you, that relationship with him has been so fruitful. I have been trying to figure out, and this is the question, other industries that do circle around people who are deceased, around death.
Right.
because I seem to do pretty well with building, these relationships over time. But I've just had trouble really thinking of other people that would be kind of in that similar vein of business and time in people's lives, other than, of course, like the funeral director and an attorney. I was curious if you or anyone else had any thoughts.
Yeah. Well, gosh, it's funny because life is all about me. When you ask that question, I'm like, my gosh, don't you watch my YouTube channel? That's what I do all the time. But of course, it's not all about me. Um, and so it's just funny how, on one hand, I've done really well on my social media. On the other hand, there's so much more room for growth. I've interviewed, myself, uh, I think 15 or 20 people that have different businesses that touch on those areas. And I think you're asking the right question. And not each of them, because their industry or who the person is, will be a partner. But sometimes you find the right partner, and there might be an industry that you didn't plan on, but there's some overlap. And I would say in a funeral home, there's going to be a small of his circle of business. You're a small circle of overlap. And in your circle of business, he's a small circle, but you guys both overlap. And at some level, you guys have a rapport. You guys have a relationship that works, whatever that means, the way you communicate, the way you do business, or who he is or something. And so that's really more of what it is. I think send out a large net and you'd be surprised what you pick up in the process. So to answer your question, I think it's really worthy. Let me ask you and answer it another way also, is the answer to that question is different in different markets. I'm in Los Angeles. So our funeral homes are huge institutions. They're like big corporate institutions. Whereas where I grew up in Orange County, there was like a local funeral home operator who was like a local businessman, and he had a salesperson or a consultant. So that business looks different in LA than it does I'm sure where you live, Stephen, in Utah. And I'm sure it's different in Salt Lake versus where you live, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really about who I have, but the brainstorming exercise is great. And so I would add into that, anybody touches a person's transition from getting sick all the way through the real estate's kind of selling the house afterwards, and then what they do with the house after that, which would be flippers and or wealth management and everything in between. So, nurses and senior citizen care. And I focus more on the probate. I've interviewed people with probate bonds and insurance for vacant houses being a little different. And so on my YouTube channel, I've always sat down and made such a list. I literally just interviewed a group called what's their company name? You can watch my YouTube channel. We just recorded today. Professional After Loss Professionals. This is a business. This is an interesting business. It might be appropriate for somebody on this call. This is a business where, let me bring it up real fast. This is a business where they certify people who help families who just lost somebody. Now, they might work well with a funeral home. In your neighborhood, there might be only one, I don't know, I'm just guessing, maybe one cemetery, maybe two. Here we have larger institutional ones throughout the city. But number one, you might find somebody who's in their network, or two, you might know somebody who would benefit from the network, or three, your friend, the funeral guy, might benefit from taking their course and getting the training and getting into their network. Now, on their website, they have partners, which also kind of answers your question. Artifacts, stuff. Jet Surety, I've interviewed on my YouTube. They do probate bonds. Nicole is a financial planner, specializes in working with widows. Knockbox is like an administrative tool for people who are administering estates. Would be a great connection. A lot of funeral homes, Knockbox and funeral homes work together, where a funeral home might buy a Knockbox and send it to a prospect as part of their sales cycle. So this kind of thing where you might learn about it, go to your funeral home friend and say, hey, there's a good connection here. Maybe it's something you want to add to your business. Or you might, as a thank you, buy him 10 Knockboxes, because if he secures more business, that's more real estate for you. My Data Diary is more of an online program. Trust Estate does estate administration. I've interviewed several competitors of theirs on my website. I did trustandwill.com. I did America's estate planning recently. And then Trustworthy is some sort of AI method for dealing with all the information and such. So there's just a couple of ones you might want to look into at afterlosspros.com by hitting on their partners. But I think, Stephen, I think you're asking the right question, one that I would love. And if anybody else has other similar companies you want to present, on my website, on my YouTube channel, I interviewed Executorium. Executorium is a service for executors to help them find other providers of services. And on Executorium, I think you should be on there, Stephen, as a realtor. And also you might find other vendors on there that you want to work with. And then you might offer that to your vendors, because you might know somebody who does some things that they would want to get free advertising on Executorium or paid advertising to get a wider reach. So that's a great question to ask. I'd love to have a whole topic on that. If anybody has any input on that, if you have suggestions, vendors, put in the chat box, raise your hand, unmute yourself. Stephen, that kind of answers some of what you're talking about?
Yeah, a little bit. I'll just tell you, there's just you talked about nurses. It's one of the bigger things we're trying to shift some of our focus to. It's like there's a newer, it's a network group, of course, but it's a network group of just all caregivers and nurses, hospice and home health care. Those are really the people on the front lines for a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned that some of the referrals I've gotten from other people are really coming from these people. So I'm kind of trying to skip the middleman, so to speak. So you mentioned that, and it's interesting out here, just what you start to learn what reality is the more and more you do it, but it takes months/years to kind of find out some of that stuff. People just don't tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it takes the depth of the relationship to get into some of that, but you keep chipping at it and chipping out. I keep interviewing people, and one leads to another. The gal today I interviewed from Pals said how to get to her, and honestly, I couldn't remember, but it was another vendor who I'd interviewed. And my goal is to touch all those people in the industry. In my case, I have a pretty active business here in Los Angeles. It's going really well. I'm looking to build a national network. I want to create the national network of realtors that deals with these kinds of companies on a national scale, and then identify the local players in each market to send those referrals to and connect in. So that's really my game plan, just to share that with everybody on the call. And so I'm looking for any company who deals in these spaces that overlap with real estate, probate or trust real estate myself. And I'm trying to interview them on my YouTube channel as a way to start the relationship.
Can you drop the link to that website you shared into the chat box?
Yeah. Hal's is afterlifepros.com. And let me see, everybody in the meeting. There you go. And I have an interview with the founder of that program coming up here in the next couple of days. We just recorded it today. Okay. Roger, do you have something you want to add to that or separate?
Oh, I found that there's banks have an entire department that's for wealth management, and their wealth management folks are the servicing the trusts that they have in their portfolios.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an excellent way to get into the transition, what I call the transition market, for someone who is going to retire, move into nursing homes, or finding care at home, or moving into assisted living situations. And those have houses that are there. And normally what the banks do with that is, if there are houses, the individuals in those departments are licensed fiduciaries. And what they wind up doing is that they will take the house and resolve all of the stuff with the research on which home does what, how much care has been needed, where they're going to go, what the impact is on the trust itself, and what to do with the assets of the family. I've also found that when they get down to the real estate that's involved, they will normally just ship it off to their real estate or their REO department, real estate owned department. And because their REO department has relationships with agents that they trust and know they're going to get a good price and get, meaning they're going to have good CMAs, brokers' price opinions, or what have you, in order to get most for that what they possibly can to ensure that. So it's just one of those things. Even if the property's paid for, the trust department or the wealth management folks just hand it over to that department to liquidate the assets, which is both personal and stuff, maybe automobiles, boats, and the like that are included in the assets of the house, as well as real estate. And usually there may be more than one real estate structure involved in the thing. So that is that is one source that I have found that works well in my market, and I'm working on 2 properties right now that I got out of that area in doing it. So you're well stated by making, and I'm just trying to recouch myself as a transition real estate professional rather than a probate real estate professional, primarily because probate is included in the transitions. In the same token, with the attorneys that I'm working with, I put the transition in, and I include divorce as a part of that as well, because both spouses are in the middle of transitioning what's happening with that. So that's what I find in my market. I'm in a small market compared to you guys, and so you can take what I say as not as profound or valuable if you're working in a larger market. Thank you for your time.
Sure. No, and I think that's an important point, that there is no right answer other than learn your market. And Rogers in Arkansas, which is, I think, much smaller than Los Angeles County for sure. And life is different. I can't walk into Wells Fargo branches and meet the wealth management person. They're not there. They're all in a wealth management office that has high security. You're not going to get in there. It's just a different life here in LA than in Arkansas. But you need to research your market and know what is available. I would say probably at smaller banks, they're closer to those people and those relationships as well. So I think Raj's point is right on, though. Find the right niche for you in the combination. I also would say in my case, being in LA, I hyper focus down the niche from probate to specifically almost legal probate real estate. I work with attorneys and families on the legal problems of probate. Whereas Roger, being in a smaller market, maybe has a little bigger net to include transitions, and he's saying divorces. I would caution you, it's hard to create messaging over multiple things. So you have to find one word that kind of gets it all. And when you mentioned transitions, perhaps that's the right word, but I don't know that necessarily that triggers in a consumer's mind transitions. All call Roger. Divorce would for sure. That's limiting. Probate, when he says limits, trust maybe. So it's a challenge. How do you find the right mix of that? But anyhow, thank you, Roger, for sharing. That was great insight. Anybody else have any niches that you work outside of cold calling attorneys and cold calling families to generate business by referral? I think that's a great topic. One I've worked on a lot. It's been my major business, has been working with different vendors. Or if not, any other questions or challenges you guys want to talk about today? Anybody? It's your chance, free coaching. It's so funny. I get phone calls all the time. Can I answer your question? Can I give them some free coaching? And I say, yeah, come on the call. I'd be glad to help you. And here's a chance.
Here's Bernie,
Hey,
Bill.
Bernie, what's up?
Thanks. I haven't actually gotten any leads yet. I haven't made any calls. I'm still in that middle stage now of planning my business, but it starts this month. So I've got so many anxieties. And of course, I've shopped around how different people teach the cold calling, that first call to the personal representative. And one line of thinking goes, you don't want to push that you're an expert or what you've done. It's not about you, it's about them. So establish some curiosity, get some rapport going, and then take small steps in terms of an appointment, hopefully at the house, but at least with the personal representative and maybe with the other heirs. The other approach is more direct about, this is what I can offer. These are the services. This is really, again, about me. And I don't want to say that's the other. I'm sorry. The other is really trying to hone in on what they're feeling and try to get into a connection so that you understand what problems they're dealing with, whether it's multiple heirs, whether they have somebody who's not acting ethically, somebody's challenging, all of those things. So any thoughts about that approach on the first call to the PR?
Broker Bernie, where do you sell real estate?
North of San Francisco in Marin and Sonoma counties.
How long you been in the business?
I've been in real estate 25 years. I've been a broker. I've managed 50 agents. I've got a lot of real estate experience and know my market. I'm new to, for a while, I was trying to aim at seniors and I wasn't successful at that. So I've honed in more on the probate leads now and believe that I have enough understanding of the process combined with my experience that I can solve their problems.
So I'll share with you that I don't, Bruce, the proprietor of Probate Mastery, does classes on cold calling. If you go to probatemastery.com, there's a free 15-minute course on marketing, another one on prospecting that covers some of those topics. I don't coach on that because I don't believe it's effective for the student. The reason why is I've watched over the years people who will ask about the right scripting and spend hours talking about it and never make the call. And so I'd rather cut off the conversation and say, just make the call, you'll figure it out. But more than that, for you in particular, in some ways, you're very much like I was 5 years ago. I'd been in the business at that time, 33 years. I'd been in management. I'd run one of the largest companies in my market. I had helped them double in size in a 3 or 4 year period. I'd been the #1 recruiter at Century 21 for those 5 years by numbers. I had the data to prove it. Helped build a YouTube channel for my owner and realized I had built my own business and started in probate. And I think the thing I would say to you is the biggest mistake you could make would be to focus on strangers. And the biggest missed opportunity would be people that you already know, like, and trust, and know, like, and trust you. And I say this every day to agents. I know that you're not going to pay attention to me. 9% of you just glaze over. Oh my God, again, with the whole call your own center of influence thing. It's because it works. And look back on my career now, the largest, best clients I have were attorneys that I knew that I didn't know they did probate. They didn't do a lot of probate. They did a couple because they did more civil litigation and end up doing well in a probate case I helped them with, and now has a huge probate case. And so I would really strongly recommend, as strong as I can recommend anything, that you take the certification to learn the product and the service and share with your client list. Everybody know, including realtors that you know and non-realtors, what you learn as you become a probate certified expert if you've done the mastery course, or what you learn as you research it. And really, if you know a little bit more than them, you're the expert. And that's really the fastest way to build your business, because you know real estate and you're competing with somebody who's brand new, who's never sold a house, who's cold calling them. And theoretically, you should wipe the floor with them because you know how to sell real estate. And the parts on probate, for example, have you read the probate purchase addendum form in detail? If I was to quiz you on it, could you answer questions on it?
I haven't read it in detail, no.
For those of you who are not in California, we actually have approved California Association Realtor probate forms. We have a probate purchase addendum and a probate listing addendum, and they both come with a probate advisory. So there's 3 forms total, where you're listing or buying, and then advisory, that's the same form. And what shocks me is people who are spending a lot of time cold calling and marketing and postcards and letters, and they've never read the form. I get offers as a listing agent. They've never read the form. I put in the MLS, you have to include the form. They send it to me, it's not filled out. They don't understand the form. And so I would say to you that if you took Probate Mastery and you read the CAR forms, or if you're in another state, if you just took the
No,
Probate Mastery.
I know the forms, and I took the CAR class on probate. So he
Right.
went over all that. I just haven't personally sat down with it. But you're right. That's an important step.
If you just shared the things you learned there with your client list, you'll get probate business faster than cold calling strangers, in my humble opinion.
Gotcha.
I just think we spend way too much time. It's just all you do with strangers is make them people that you know. Once you know them, you turn them into customers. Just start with ones already there. Once you've called, once you've built a system to share social media with your current database, email out to them weekly, post content regularly. Once you've done, and once you've called them all once, then start cold calling. But I wouldn't, someone with you, your database is gold. Theoretically, you should be able to sell your database for $100,000 cash, but you just haven't put it together yet.
Yeah.
I could sell mine today for $100,000.
I believe that.
Right? Because I have systems and procedures and content and stuff put together with it, databases and such. So I think that you're really avoiding the real value. The biggest asset in your business are the people you already know. And by the way, that includes realtors, you know, because there's two groups. There's ones who are geographically might refer your probate, and those who technically that you coached or managed or brokered who don't know about probate, who would refer your probate as well. I would not leave them out of the equation. Most realtors make that mistake and don't market to their colleagues thinking they're competition. But by definition, we're all competition, but we're also all cooperation. So
Yeah.
that's my best advice.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill.
My pleasure. And I know I'm being hard on you, Broker Bernie, but I mean to be. I want to push you hard towards success. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Colette asks, you missed the probate quarter business plan call. Is that on YouTube? I don't think it is. I'm not aware of it if it is. If somebody knows differently, you know, Colette, that's a great question to ask on the probate in the Facebook group. If you want to ask a question there, I think that would be a great question to ask, and we'll find out there because I don't know the answer to that. I was on the call. And then let's see, I see hand up. 1 second, Lisa. Evie asks, when speaking with your database, are you letting them know you're in probate or just, hey, how's it going? Can you speak to that? No, you know, I think that it changes over time, Evie, but I email out to my entire database a real estate related content piece about the market every week. And I called them all. I started when I did Probate Mastery 5 years ago, saying, hey, you know, just want to make sure you know I'm involved with probate real estate. And I've really learned the specialties and the laws and procedures related to transitions between families if there's litigation involved. And I've been meeting attorneys and such. If you have any questions in that area, let me know. And I started those calls and I got through the D's. And I've told the story numerous times, so I won't go in detail, but we'll say I got a lead that referred me to listings that sold. When I got to the D's, I just got so busy, I never continued that. I've never called since. I've never cold called a probate. And I only, in my own database, at the time I had a total of 700 people. And I got to the D's. So I imagine, I don't know, was that 50 or 100 people? I don't remember the number, but somewhere in that range. I got to about 100 people and I've never made a cold call since. Now, could I have spent more time cold calling and got more business? Yeah, probably. I was 60 years old when I started. I'm 65 now. I only have so much energy. I only want to work so hard. So take that for what you will. When I was 25 or 30, I would have got through the whole list, I'm sure, in the first couple of months. But I'm telling you, I didn't have to. And I built a great business. Okay, Lisa Young, let's get you unmuted and bring you in. What's going on?
Hi, thanks. I have an appointment to meet with an attorney on the 10th of July, and I'm in Lyon County, which is it's a big county, but we're up in Nevada. And he's over in Yerington. That's where the courthouse is for Lyon County. So I'm going to meet with this attorney, and he's he took over a big practice that did a lot of probate stuff. So I'm just getting prepared for the meeting, and I wanted to go in with just a different approach of, hey, who can you send me? I don't want to do that. I wanted to have it more like an education for myself and also what I can provide as a service for him. When you met with attorneys, what was your approach?
Well, let me just ask you before I go there, let me answer your question. Why does he think you're meeting with him?
To learn more about the probate process and to get to know him better. That's what I said on the phone. I just talked with him.
Yeah. So there's two ways you can go with it. And so to answer your question, I used to pre-COVID invite attorneys to lunch, and I would set up, I think, I would set 4 appointments and actually had 2 lunches a week. That was kind of my business plan. I picked the same restaurant. Now I'm in LA. It's a huge, dense,
Yeah.
I'm near Beverly Hills and Century City, which is a very dense area of attorneys. So I had an unlimited number to choose from. So that worked for me because I wanted the same restaurant near my house, time was efficient, go to lunch with them. And my goal was just to learn about them. It was really just to ask questions about them, their practice, their life, personally, get to know them, create a relationship. And I found almost any attorney would agree to go out to lunch. And particularly if it was at a nice restaurant, and it was a nice restaurant. It was a very business-oriented setup. I went to the restaurateur and set up where I had the same table, and I'd reserve it, and I would tip the people if it canceled at the last minute, and I always tipped the waiters, more than anybody else would, and but it was all part of the show. It was all part of the process. You don't have to do that, but that's just what I did. And I also I'm in an area where that's more common, right? You're in an area that's more low key and more personal. I'm in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills kind of thing. So I would say do what's right for you and your market. And I think you have to take one of two paths. Either you're the hard kill closer, find out what their need is, make a connection, or and the strategy there always is have a next step. Right. There's every appointment. What's the next step? So once you find what their need is, you need about afterlife care or knockbox or executorium or marketing or interview on your YouTube channel or whatever the next step is. You always want to have a next step in a relationship. Right. If you think of dating, you always want to set the next date at that date. You wait to the next day, there's always attention. Is going to call me back or not? If it's a relationship, same thing. You want to have, the other option is not talk about business, just have a personal relationship to chat. Now, for women, that's a little more challenging. I don't want to get too personal here, but in general, you have to deal with that. Gee, the woman seems like she's asking me out. What does she want? Men, you don't have that problem. We have to act professional and make sure we toe that line. But with women, I think you have to think about that. I'm not sure it is different, but you have to think about how might they get the wrong impression, and you might be okay with that. I don't know. Maybe you're single and you want to meet a young attorney, or that's your business, not mine. But assuming that's not the case, I'm just saying just be cautious of that and what messages you're sending out. But I think that you can go either way. You can either go pure relationship or you can go more technical. I think you have to find your song and your key. Mine is I don't really want many more friends in my life. To be honest, I got a lot of friends. I have a very active social life. I'm looking to help people, and I love to help people in their business. And to me, a friend is somebody I can help with their business. But I'm not looking to go to a ball game with them. I'm not going to go golfing with anybody. I'm just not interested. But I will help you with your business if you want some help. I will help interview you. I will give you some technical input. I'll come to your office and try to help, assist you with it. So those are things that I offer to do as businessmen, and I want to go to. But I think you need to find your song and sing that, whatever that is.
Okay.
Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
I'm really big. Look, I'm not selling a coaching program. I'm selling you implementing the coaching that you signed up for. What you signed up for was the content to learn how to be an expert. So how do you implement that? We're not selling you one method. And I will clearly say, at least my approach is find the method that works best for you. You'll feel better. It'll be more genuine. You'll be better at it. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Let me go back a little bit. Abby says, well, amazing. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Can you explain from what point of the probate we can start to sell the property in California? Gilbert, I think, asked that question. I don't know if you want to come in and may have some additional questions. That's a interesting question. At what point can you sell a property in California?
Yes,
I would
sir.
say there's a wide, there you are. There's a variety of opinions. And so let me start from the strictest legal opinion. You can't sell the property until you have the actual letters of authority in the state of California. That's the strictest opinion, which means that your client has filed the petition to be appointed executive administrator and got to the court hearing date and done things they need to do that, whereby the court appointed them at the hearing date. And then at some point, a actual order and letters are issued and approved by the court. That's the strictest sense. Now in LA, you can get that hearing date in about 35 days from you file, but then you have to prepare the order and prepare the letters, and the judge has to sign them. And if a bond is required, you have to get the bond issued and submit that before the court will sign the letters. That's where a lot of attorneys get tripped up. They go to court, they get approved, and they'll say to the customer, well, I'm waiting for the judge to sign the form. In LA court, if you submit the order before your hearing date, they just ignore it because that's not what the judge approved. They make you submit it after the hearing date. And so I've seen many attorneys tell the customer, oh, we're waiting for the judge for 3 months to sign the order. No, it's never 3 months. It means that you didn't submit it properly, or you're missing the bond or something else that's missing. Now, that said, when you go to court, the judge says out loud, okay, you're approved and here's the terms. Can you list it then? Well, it depends on your broker. My broker, I'm with eXp Realty, allows me to. But technically, it's not legal enforceable until you have the written letters, so you have to disclose that. And so that's all parties, which means in the listing agreement to your client, and then if you put in the MLS, you have to disclose that to other agents in the private remarks. Additionally, you could even list the property before, according to Paul Horn, who's an attorney and does the CAR class, before you even have approval from the court, as long as you disclose to all parties that nobody's authorized and that's not a legally binding contract. That's a pretty radical and aggressive position, but it might be one, let's say, to get a buyer lined up because you're trying to avoid foreclosure. So the answer to the question, Gilbert, is you need to clear that with your broker of record, make sure you're in compliance with whatever their requirements are. Legally, by the strictest sense, you cannot sign the listing agreement until you have the actual letters of authority in California, and there's similar verbiage in other states. But there are exceptions to that, and that depends on what your broker allows you to do. Hope that's a long-winded answer to the question, but hopefully that answers the question.
How do you approach the client? What they have to do? You tell them to go to talk with your attorney, or just like you handle the part?
Right. Well, so for example, I have cases where the customer, they got verbal approval at court, right? They filed the petition, they did everything they needed to do. They got to court. The judge said, you're approved and you're the executor and here's the terms, blah, 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 blah. And the customer said, well, I've been talking to the attorney and he doesn't know when we're going to get the letters, but he's waiting on them. And I'll actually discover that, well, he never submitted the form, or discovered that he's not yet filed for a bond or got the bond approved. You're going to wait forever at that point. So I've had cases where I've said to the customer, look, if you're okay with it, let's go ahead and sign it. I'm going to put a disclosure here that's not binding until you get letters. So you and I know it's not binding. If you decide you want to cancel, but at least now you've appointed me as your agent and I'm protected to do the things that you want me to do to help you, like go to the house, check the lock, put a lockbox on, take pictures, whatever you want me to do. I'm at least selected by you, and I have to have your agreement, but know that you can cancel your agreement. It's not binding until you have the letters. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So that becomes business strategy. Gilbert, is it Gilbert or Gilbert?
Gilbert.
Gilbert, where in California are you?
I'm at Glendale Valley area.
Very good. So if I can help, feel free to reach out on an individual case. Each case is different.
Mhm.
Feel free to reach out if I can help. Okay.
Of course, thank you.
Thanks, Gilbert. Okay. There you go. Simple as that. Other questions? We've got about 10 minutes left. Other questions, comments, victories, losses? I'll show you guys a common problem. I don't know if she's on here today. The other agent on one of my deals is upset with me. I have a case where my client, who is inheriting a property, she's never owned a house before, couldn't buy a house, very low income. I don't want to use too many adjectives here, but very, very low income. Obviously, if you went by the house that she was living in, which was a subject property, and she was selling that property and moving out. And the buyer's agent was very upset that when they moved out, they left a lot of trash, they left furniture, they left more than trash, like the bathrooms were filthy. I'll get into particular. What do? Right? I mean, I feel bad for her. I feel bad for the buyer. But the reality is, in California, my job ended when the property sold. And the buyer and the seller have to work that out. Now, if the buyer wants to make a case, say the buyer signed a contract and damaged me, and I had to hire whatever cleanup company to clean up, and it cost me $5,000, that's between the buyer and the seller. But technically, my role doesn't exist. Not uncommon in probate. So what I normally try to do in the contract, this one that I won't explain why it didn't happen. Normally, on a standard probate sale, I put that the seller will remove whatever they want, and whatever they leave, the buyer will accept. And I put the burden of the cleanup on the buyer, not the seller. We couldn't do that in this case without getting the details. Diane asks, what determines if a bond is required or not is different from state to state. I'm in, looks like NJ, New Jersey. So I don't know state law in New Jersey. Laws do vary from state to state. Most states do require a bond. And for certain cases, commonly a bond is required if there's no will. Let me back up. A bond is often waived if the will states no bond required and states who the executor is going to be. Courts require a bond to protect the estate, particularly if the will doesn't waive it, and if the executor is not named, or if the executor is out of state, or the executor is has a criminal past or something. So there's different reasons why you might require a bond. JetSurety.com is a bond company nationally. Great website. You might want to check out some of their details. Hope I answered your question, Diane. But Jet Surety is a company that I've worked with that specializes in that area. Roger says, how are others approaching the NER settlement within probate transition process, selling, family, attorney, court, etc.? I think it's so interesting you asked that question because literally on Friday I was getting ready to take a new listing, and I noticed that the forms had not yet been released through SkySlope, the new updated forms. This is going to be an interesting transition period for us in the business. Personally, I only work with sellers, not with buyers. So the problem the buyer's agents face, I don't deal with. My MLS still, as of today, shows the commission, I believe. I don't think it's been taken out, not to my knowledge. Commission being offered, as of yesterday it was. So I'm not really sure. I'm not sure where we are in the process and what's changing, when it changes. I would say try to keep your head down, get as many listings as you can, not worry about it, is my best advice. But how are people approaching it? I hear realtors very nervous and spend a lot of time, and things don't really affect them today. I would say make sure you play the cards you're dealt and don't worry about the cards you're not dealt as of today. Yes, and Broker Brandon points out the listing agreement is limited to 90 days. You do a listing in probate in California, the maximum you can have a listing for is 90 days. That's right in the probate listing agreement form. Dre has his hand up. Let's see if we can get you unmuted and maybe your camera on, or if not, let's get you to, how can I help you, Dre?
Yes. Question. Does anybody have like they created like any type of pamphlets or PDFs for their business? Because I'm looking to create one pretty soon, and I just wanted to see if I could kind of like see an examples of some.
You're
Just
looking
that
for a PDF of what?
a PDF or a pamphlet for their business for a probate or just any aspect of their business.
If anybody who has one, you want to share, feel free to put that in the chat below. I did one years ago,
Okay.
and printed them up, and I have not handed one out in the last couple of years, to be honest. I think the goal is to get to where it's funny. People ask me for my pre-appointment package, and I say I don't really have one. I talk to somebody on the phone, and I'll say, "Do you want me to list a property?" And I send them an e-package to sign, online. I don't really even get into all that. I think that one of the keys, instead of trying to help them find the right realtor, is being the right realtor. That said, I realize some of you need some clever material. I put a link into mine. I hired alltheleads.com and did their basic brochure, changed the colors out, and that's just really all I used. And it's pretty simple. And I don't know that it's particularly good, but that's what I used. And you're welcome to check out in the chat box. So Colette says, are most of your home sales as is? And she says that she finds most of hers end up pretty much as is for probate. Yes. Almost all the probates are sold as is. I rather negotiate that in the price, right? If you're going to buy a house for $500,000, or you'll trash it out, you'll take care of the trash yourself for $498. I find the buyer is better equipped to clean out the property than the seller. The buyer may be a flipper or a contractor. Of course, they're better equipped. And if not, as long as they know up front they need to deal with it, it becomes their problem instead of my client's problem. So generally speaking, I try to negotiate all the work on the buyer side so that my seller doesn't have to deal with that. That's my strategy. Okay. Any other questions? Roger, thank you. Matthew Price says that all his as is. Yeah, I think it's seller pays for cleanouts. Huh. Okay. I had the buyer do the cleanout, but okay. Different ways, different markets, whatever works for yours. I think the key is you got to find out what works in your market and for your client and do that, and negotiate that and be clear about it. Make sure it's in writing and everybody understands those issues up front. Okay, other questions, comments before we wrap up here? Or should we just wrap it up? I'll just real quick kind of go through, who are we? This is probatemastery.com. This is the weekly real estate free weekly coaching call that we do. If you want to join, if you're not already, click on that and put your name and email phone number and register. You'll get reminders every week. On the website, you'll also get a link to the Facebook community. Continue the conversation there. If your questions don't get answered or you're watching us on replay, put your question in. There's a lot of content for probate as well as networking opportunities. Feel free to participate in all that. Some free content. If you're new to the probate space, you should check all this out for free. And then I've taken numerous certifications. The best by far, most valuable by far, in terms of learning the space, was Probate Mastery. And if you click on it, you'll get the details. And the latest price is $399. And you'll get the live dates coming up. The next one is July 15th through 19th. Definitely worth the while. I did it, paid for it twice myself. So, I really believe that the more you know, I'd rather compete on that than how pretty my brochures are or my marketing materials. Okay, I don't see other questions, so I think we'll just wrap up. July 4th coming up. I'm working today, tomorrow. If you guys want to reach out, feel free. If I can help, at Bill Gross Probate. Otherwise, we'll see you guys here next week, same time, Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you for your time today.